welcome back. Ignore the Datsun in the corner. So today I'm finally gonna get back to work on my Oldsmobile. This is my Turbo LS Tremec TKX 5-speed Ford 9-inch car. I've had this thing for a long time. It makes about 600 horsepower to the wheels, reliably. It's a very fun car to drive. However, I was recently chasing a driveline vibration problem ever since I put the transmission in. I remade the transmission cross member. I measured pinion driveline angles a million times. And I also changed the pinion yoke on the rear end. I upgraded it so that I could run 1350 joints front and rear on the drive shaft to try to. Well, welcome to shooting in 4K on a GoPro. Maybe I won't do that anymore. Anyway, what I was saying was I changed the pinion yoke in this car so that I could run 1350 joints front and rear to try to eliminate that as a source of vibration. I also put upper control arms in it so I could adjust it and set the pinion angle, and I've got it set exactly where I want it. Everything looks really good. However, I think the Daytona yoke is a different size, or something else is wrong where it's leaking gear oil right past the pinion yoke. So if you look over here, right down here is where the Oldsmobile's been parked for months. And that's a pretty sizable pile of gear oil on the ground. I think today that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get the car up in the air and pull the drive shaft out and see what's up with that pinion yoke. I talked to the guys at Quick Performance and they gave me some tips. I'll show you what I got. Okay, I'll give you guys a look at the underside of this thing. Don't mind the crossover pipe. That thing smashes the ground only a little bit. The way I see it is it's slowly grinding that weld. Okay, so if you look right here, I believe this is our culprit. Interesting. Saw something that looked like oil right here as well. That's interesting. So it must be whipping when this thing gets wet. Let me check this out. So this might be pretty hard to see, but right here we've actually got oil right here on the pinion. So if this must have been facing down. I don't know if you guys can see the oil right here, but I do not have oil back further on the pinion, like right here. There's a little bit of dirt and stuff, but there is no oil collecting on the pinion itself. So the guys from Quick Performance said sometimes when you put a yoke in like this, what can happen is oil will seep right past the splines, come right past the nut, and it'll appear like a pinion leak. So I'm gonna pull the drive shaft off and check that this pinion is nice and tight. I have heard that sometimes you need a spacer with these yokes. So I'm gonna check all that out, make sure that this pinion is indeed tight and everything's preloaded right. And then, yeah, I don't know if you can see, the seal is brand new and there's just a little remnant of oil on the lip of the seal. So this actually all looks dry under here. It looks like our problem is here. Here's maybe a better view. I don't know if you guys can see here. There's the oil right there. Pull the drive shaft quick and take a look at that pinion. You guys might be able to see this. Maybe I can crop in the video, but I can actually see a puddle of gear oil right around that nut. So just like the guys from Quick Performance said, that is the problem. Everything else seems nice and tight. So I think I'm gonna pull that pinion nut off and put some silicone on the splines of the pinion. So the reason that this is significant is because the oil is in fact coming through the spline and escaping right behind the nut and leaking to the face of the pinion down here. So makes everybody think they have a pinion seal leak, but it's actually right here. Okay, it's a few days later. Oldsmobile's in the air. Still haven't fixed it. I will soon. But I got a call from Eric at S Motorsports down the street. He's ready to drop the engine in his Trans Am. He's been building an LQ4, a 6-liter LS for that thing for a few months. He's got some really good parts in it. So I'm gonna finish eating my novelty ice cream because I might be as tall as an adult, but inside I'm still a kid. So we might live in Wisconsin, but lately it's kind of seeming like we live in the Amazon rainforest. I don't know how many inches of rain we've got already this year, but it's a lot. Seems like it rains 4 or 5 days a week, about an inch at a time. Everybody's yards are flooded and it's crazy. All right, check this out. We're at S Motorsports headquarters, HQ. All right. How's it going, guys?
So far, so good.
Check it out, S Motorsports HQ.
Welcome to the...
So Eric actually has nice cars. See, his have paint on all of the body panels. So this is a Trans Am he's been building for a while. Oh look, you guys already got it done. Sweet. Man,
It's been about in this position for like 45 minutes.
I'm the blister. I show up when all the work's done. This is great. Welcome back under the car. Gonna pop this pinion nut loose and gently tap that pinion out of the front there. Then we can get a little bit of goop on the inside and put it back. And just take this out. Okay, that nut is a little bit hot. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the background. It is raining like nuts here in Wisconsin yet again. I do not know why. I don't know why it continues to do this, but it does. It rains like every other day. All right, because I've been here before, I remembered to put a pan down there. I'm gonna let this drain for a little while. I gotta fill it back up anyway. So you can actually see the evidence of where the pinion was leaking. You can see that there's oil collected here and not on the other side as this car sat, you know, with the drive shaft in one place. So the trick that I heard from the guys at Quick Performance is actually we're gonna run silicone inside here to seal the splines to the housing so that hopefully oil can no longer leak past here. When I get this all cleaned up, throw some silicone on it and slam her back together. So got the pinion out and I'm gonna run some ultra gray right on the splines here, schmeeze it in there pretty good and then let it skin over and then I'll put the pinion back in. That should hopefully stop any oil from coming through the splines on the pinion. And then I have a little pinion spacer, or like it's a spacer basically for the yoke, because the yoke I have is a Daytona yoke, I guess. Talked to the guys at Quick Performance. They said when you run a Daytona yoke on a standard pinion like this, you either need a spacer or you need a different pinion setup. So the one way to get around it is to use that little spacer, and that's just to make sure that we have the correct preload on the yoke, because I think there's like machining where the nut goes in a little further. I'll show you on the bench. Man, did I go crazy with this. That's too much. All right, that's definitely too much on there. Wipe some of that off, but I'll show you guys the spacer on the bench. Here's what I got. This is my billet steel Daytona style, what I just learned, pinion yoke. So essentially it's a 28 spline. It'll go onto a normal 4.9-inch pinion, but it's machined for a 1350 U-joint. The difference here is that the U-joint caps are actually wider and they have this little lip and they need a special billet cap. So you can't just use regular 1350 U-joint straps for this because they won't fit. But there is something different with these, and I'm not pretending to be a 4.9-inch expert. If you have questions, call Quick Performance like I did. However, they suggested that because I'm running a Daytona yoke and I have a standard pinion support bearing in there, there was one way to make that work, and that is by using what they called like a pinion spacer, basically. So because I'm not super confident on how this goes together, I did talk to the guys and they said there's two ways you can install this. I believe they said you can install it in front of the pinion like this, or you can install it under the nut. And because this yoke is machined like perfectly, that spacer fits almost perfectly inside the pinion yoke there. And basically that's going to move the nut about 1/4 inch up the threads so that you can make sure to get really good preload on that bearing. I guess sometimes if people use these, because this is recessed in here, that nut fits down in there really far, and sometimes they'll have problems where they'll tighten the nut all the way down on the pinion and the pinion will still be flopping around. So we're trying to solve two problems at once here. We're putting silicone on the splines to seal this thing off, and we're putting that spacer under the nut here to make sure that we still have proper preload on that pinion bearing. All right, now that that pinion is all nice and gooped up, it's had probably 15 minutes or so to start to tack up. We're gonna throw the pinion back on. Move this out of the way here. Get this started sliding back in. I'll use a dead blow hammer to just tap it all the way in. You guys hear it go solid with that? There it is. Okay, so pinion is all the way in, and then in goes our pinion spacer for the nut, and then the pinion nut. So I'm gonna go grab some more anti-seize, throw that on there, tighten this up, come back and show you what it looks like all done. So you can probably see in here now, I just have the pinion nut run down to snug, but it is basically flush with the pinion shaft, or the threaded part of the shaft there. So I'm gonna give this a couple of ugga-duggas with the electric impact and get it snugged up. Behind that spacer, there's a nice bead of silicone that is formed in those splines. So the pinion is all the way down. It's just a little ways off the seal there. Get this tightened up and clean all this up and then fill it up with a little more gear oil. Okay, so there's just a little itty bitty bit of backlash in there, but the pinion itself is nice and snug, not moving around at all. These are those special Daytona style, dag nabbit. These are those special Daytona style U-joint caps. I got these from Mark Williams. Very expensive, but they work. There's probably other ones that work, but this is what I found. These are really nice. So, what's going on, man? Look at this. Look who it is. Sam. You guys remember him? He's in the intro sequence and we were doing donuts and stuff in this thing. He's here to help out today. Okay, so after we got this connected and all tightened up, there is something that's concerning, and it is the fact that the pinion nut is now touching the back of the U-joint. So I'm worried about that U-joint being frozen in there up against the nut with no room to move while the drive shaft spins. And while it seems okay right now, while there's no load on the car, I think it's going to be a problem. So I'll show you guys close here what's going on. So move this light there. All right, it's going to be hard to see probably, but right there, maybe you can see right there, if you look at the pinion nut is actually bottomed out or right up against the middle of the U-joint. So what I think I'm gonna do, I'll pull the drive shaft back out, take the U-joint caps off, and then I'm gonna try putting in a thinner spacer, either that or shaving that spacer down. He said he would send me stickers.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, it feels like something like that.
No fucking way!
That's cool.
Cool. Hey, look at this, special delivery from John over at Cars and Cameras. I met him on I met him on Power Tour, and I asked him if he had any stickers with him. And he said, no, I do not, but I will send some to you. So check it out directly from the guys at Cars and Cameras. Look at this. My other ride is a go-kart. My other ride is a mini bike. I love it. These are nice stickers too. Did he send me a whole bunch of them? Holy shit, he did. Look at this. Cars and Cameras. We got to slap that on the back of the Datsun somewhere. Oh yeah. Look at all these. The stickers for testing purposes only. Oh man, thanks a lot guys, you guys rock. If you guys don't watch Cars and Cameras, check them out on YouTube. They're super cool, they're great guys to meet in person. All right, so here, you can probably see in here now, the pinion nut is just a little bit back behind the tip of the shaft, and there are no marks on the back of this U-joint right here, indicating that it ever touched. But now we have just a little bit more clearance. So you can probably see in here, yeah, there's the nice shiny spacer, goes in front of that. Pinion's buried in there, it's nice and tight. So we're gonna throw the drive shaft back in, fill this up with fluid, and then take it for a test drive. All right, so for anybody that might want a little bit more video on this car, had this car for a while. So, turbo 5.3 TKX. Makes really good power, fun to drive. They're running into town, it's low on fuel, but I want to see if once the rear end gets going and moving, if that leak has gone away with the silicone in there. Alright, let's see. Man, it's so different from the Datsun, because Datsun's shifter is like way back here. This shifter is like, feels like it's under the dash. Yeah, this is a very different driving experience than the Datsun. Oh my god. This car is so smooth, quiet compared to that car. It's crazy. And the clutch grabs right off the floor. Woo. It's gonna take me a second to figure it out. It has so many modern conveniences like power steering, power brakes, wing windows. Is that car? It's an F-85, and the truth is, when I bought this car, I wanted a Chevelle really bad. But I learned after a little while that Chevelles, GTOs, Le Mans, all that stuff, Tempest, Oldsmobile, Cutlass, they all share the same frame and suspension stuff. So I bought this car and said I'll just buy all the cool Chevelle parts and bolt that to this. Here we are, almost 4 years later. So we just got back from a test drive in the Oldsmobile, and everything actually seems really good. The driveline vibration, I think, is gone. I think switching to the 1350 yoke in the back really did help with that. But we filled up the rear end right before we went, obviously, and we put just a little, like a white paper towel underneath the pinion just to see if it does start leaking. We'll check this in another, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour or something. But I think putting the silicone on the yoke and putting that spacer into the pinion nut is what we needed to get this thing ready to rock with 1350 joints. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna conclude this video right here. If you guys like this car, if you want to see more on it, let me know. There might be a road trip I take this thing on. We'll have to see. There's somebody out there who wants to see this car, Kevin. Otherwise, maybe Kevin will come here. So for those of you that have watched this far, thank you very much. All my subscribers, especially like the 400 of you that have joined in the last week or so, thank you so much. You pushed me to monetization. That's huge. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Here you go. Look at this. This was that first attempt. We'll go all the way to the end here. Say hi to my incredibly accommodating neighbors who not only tolerate this, but encourage it sometimes. Let's see. Went right past the neighbors over here. Oh boy. Yeah, this kept going for a while. Hopefully they don't call the cops. Okay, there you go. It took me 40 seconds to walk all that way.